Chapter 1 Rama. Kaikeyi was the younger queen of Dasharatha and the mother of Bharata. Her father Ashwapati was now old, and Dasharatha thought that it would please him if he sent his son Bharata to Kekaya. He called Bharata and told him that he should go and spend some time in Kekaya with his grandfather and his uncle Yudhajit. When Bharata left for Kekaya, with him went his brother Shatrughna, who was so fond of him that he would never be separated from him. Shatrughna was a noble prince who was able to keep the 6 enemies at bay. The enemies by name: Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada and Matsarya. He was indeed Shatrughna, as his name implied, and he was Bharata's alter ego, even as Lakshmana was Rama's. Ashwapati, the old king, was very happy that the young men had come to him to spend some time with him. Though they were treated well, entertained very well by their uncle and their grandfather, Bharata and Shatrughna thought of their old father very often. The king also remembered them and their gentle ways. All his sons were dear to the old king, Dasharatha. To him, they were like 4 arms, and he was happy, the more so since they were born to him when he was no longer young. Still, though he was fond of all of them, Rama was dearer to his father than his other sons. It was perhaps his beauty and his charm, or perhaps the many good qualities, noble qualities in him, which made the king love him as he did. Only the Devas knew that he was Narayana himself, who had deigned to be born on the earth for the sole purpose of destroying Ravana. Kaushalya was contented and proud of her son Rama, and she looked like Aditi, the mother of Indra. As for Rama, he was unparalleled in the qualities which make a man great. He was handsome, very pleasing and charming to look at. He was a very brave young man, and yet his bravery was combined with mercy. He was ever tranquil, unruffled by the sway of emotions. He would be friendly with everyone. He would talk first and talk softly with affection. Even if, by some chance, someone spoke harshly to him, he would never reply in the same tone. If anyone did him any favor, even if it were a small task, he would always remember it with gratitude, while his own good acts would be forgotten by him, even if they were hundreds in number. Engaged in the Ayodhyakāṇḍa, practicing his archery and other arts befitting a Kshatriya, Rama would still find time to spend with elders, those who were elder to him because of age, because of their greater wisdom, because they were old enough to teach him the ways of the world. He was highly intelligent, and he had learnt the art of conversing with people. His voice was pleasing to hear, and though he was a warrior, he never once prided himself on his prowess. Rama would never tell a lie. It was, with him, almost a religious compulsion that he should not utter an untruth, even in the most trying situation. He was ever bent on honoring elders and scholars. He would spend a long time with them, humbly learning all they had to teach. Rama was greatly attached to his father's subjects, and the people of Ayodhya loved him. Each man loved him as his own son. So dear was the prince to everyone. Rama was compassionate, and he would always sympathize with anyone who was in trouble. He was the first to shed tears if anyone was in pain or suffering. He was ever righteous, and he had conquered the greatest of enemies, anger. He would never willingly hurt anyone with his words, and he could never countenance words which were against the code of living. He knew how to listen patiently to others and to make the proper reply when questioned. In this art, he was like the heavenly preceptor, Brihaspati himself. He was loved by everyone, this young son of the king. Words could not describe the wealth of goodness that was Rama. He was the very life of the men in Ayodhya. He was well versed in the arts which a Kshatriya had to master, and he was also very proficient in the knowledge of the Vedas and all its angas. He was greater than even his father in the art of warfare. Born of a line of kings, all of whom were paragons of virtue, Rama was the jewel of them all. Righteous and ever truthful, he was firm in his convictions. He was trained by great teachers and he would never forget what he had been taught. He would always think of new ways of doing things, and his name was used as an example for everything, for every good quality that should adorn a human being. Rama firmly believed that the path of Dharma was the only pathway to Artha, Kama and Moksha. Humble when he had to be humble, Rama knew how to keep his thoughts to himself, and until it was completed, he would not talk about any task which he had undertaken. He was a sincere friend and he was wise as to the proper use of wealth, when it should be acquired and when it should be spent. He was a great devotee of the Lord, and his wisdom was unrivaled. He had never been known to speak a word which was unfitting to any occasion. Never fond of laziness, he was ever alert. Rama could never be deceived by anyone. He was fully conscious of his own shortcomings as well as those of others. He was well versed in the Shastras, and he had studied the nature of man well. Man and his behavior and the variations of his nature in its various aspects. He knew how to choose his friends, and once they were chosen, he was a great devotee of the Lord, and his wisdom was unrivaled. He had never been known to speak a word which was unfitting to any occasion. Never fond of laziness, he was ever alert. Rama could never be deceived by anyone. He was fully conscious of his own shortcomings as well as those of others. He was well versed in the Shastras, and he had studied the nature of man well. Man and his behavior and the variations of his nature in its various aspects. He knew how to choose his friends, and once they were chosen, his friends were never abandoned. Protecting the good and punishing evildoers was the ultimate aim of Rama, and it was his nature to do every act at the proper time, and never once had he done a wrong act or spoken a wrong word. Well read as he was in the sacred lore, Rama was equally proficient in the fine arts. He could play on the veena and the flute, and he was an expert in judging the merits of sculptures and other forms of art. He could control horses and elephants just as well as he could his own feelings. A great warrior, he knew all the many methods of arranging the vyuhas, riding in the chariot, fighting from a horseback or on foot. He was greater than all the devas and asuras in the intricacies of warfare. He was never jealous, and anger had no place in his heart. He had never once insulted his dependents. He knew when to be angry and with whom. Never selfish, Rama knew how to act according to the situations in which he found himself. In short, Rama was the home of all the many qualities that can be enumerated, and he was the beloved prince of the citizens of Ayodhya. He was ever dear to his father and to the people of the country. The earth herself was so much enamored of him that she desired to be ruled by him.